I've always had a fear of spiders, a fear mixed with fascination. Those horrible creatures, large, hairy, with sharp claw-like legs, sticky webs, eyes, disgusting fur, stingers, poison, and the horrifying way they eat their prey piece by piece, preserving them in a lump to keep them alive while they feast. I often ventured into the open countryside in search of spiders, usually tarantulas. The key was not to touch them and to keep my distance. A spider typically won't attack you unless it feels threatened and prefers to signal its danger by raising its legs, as if to say, "Stay away, I'm dangerous." One morning, I ventured farther than usual, near the army base. There was open countryside for several miles, and spiders of all kinds were often found in the tall grass. While I was searching, I saw a cricket hopping about, but at a certain point, it disappeared. I approached to see what had happened, and then I saw it. I saw it struggling in a web, and then I saw the spider. It struck me immediately how unnaturally large it was, hairy, and, above all, how fast it was in approaching and biting the cricket. Then it slowly wrapped the cricket in its web with the cold efficiency of a killing machine. As I watched all of this, I felt an itch on my ankle. I looked down and saw a spider of the same kind, smaller, on my skin. Terrified, I tried to brush it off, but then I felt a bite that paralyzed me with pain. I immediately removed it and ran back home. I rushed to see a doctor, but there seemed to be no venom in my blood. The bite also healed very quickly. It was one of those rare cases of a non-venomous spider that bites only to scare. Lucky me, I thought. Then I started having these visions. At first, they were just dreams, but then they started appearing in reality. In my peripheral vision, the part you see out of the corner of your eye, I felt like I could see a spider. One of those tiny ones, small, but there it was. It was there, motionless. Whenever I tried to look directly, though, it vanished, as if an image told me not to. But the spider began to appear more and more frequently. It was always the same. It stayed, and as soon as I tried to look at it, it would disappear. It didn't move. It was motionless, whether I stared directly at it or not. Then, one day, I managed to look at it. I stared at it, and it didn't disappear. It was the same kind of spider that had bitten me. After a few seconds, it vanished again. It began to appear regularly, staying longer before vanishing. Sometimes it moved, but it was strange. It moved without moving its legs, as if it were a spider-shaped drawing, an image that shifted without changing. Then it started getting bigger. Now I could see the eyes, the symbol on its abdomen, the stinger. It moved closer to me, and then it vanished, but it had become bigger. I was getting more and more uneasy. I tried to move away, but it pursued me. It was intelligent, and it vanished just before touching me. I could confirm it was still a figment of my imagination, but something in my mind was slowly going mad. One morning, I woke up to find it on my chest. I was scared. It was much larger than usual, and it was staring at me. It climbed onto my legs, and this time I could distinctly feel its weight. Its touch got closer and closer. Then it vanished when I started screaming to alert my parents. Every time it was the same. When I was alone, it would appear and approach menacingly, but in public, it never showed itself except behind plants, behind a vase, in corners where no one could see it. Only I could see it. It stared at me, mocking my madness, threatening me, knowing that it would soon attack. Another morning, I woke up with the spider on my chest. I nearly had a heart attack to find that horrible, hairy thing just inches from my face. It immediately pinned me down with its legs and gave me a bite on the chest. An excruciatingly painful bite that sent waves of pain across my chest, neck, and arms. I seemed on the verge of a heart attack. After its bite, pustules appeared, and every time it bit me, more would emerge. My parents and other guests began to see the spider too. We discovered where it was hiding in my closet. When I opened it, I found a series of cocoons containing various fruits and drinks, along with countless tiny spiders crawling around in my clothes. In the upper corner, the largest spider stared at me. We contacted pest control several times, but each time the spiders returned in greater numbers. In the end, we decided to move to another house because my room was now infested, and so was the basement. The doctor who treated me examined the pustules and eventually removed them entirely. He told me that these were not really pustules but small pods, each containing around 50 spider eggs. This particular type of spider reproduced by injecting eggs into the victim through a bite, and these eggs then fed on the victim's flesh until they emerged at night. The illusions were explained by the fact that the spider emitted a kind of drug into my bloodstream along with the eggs. The drug continued to be secreted by the eggs into the pustules, making me believe that a spider was haunting me. Each tiny spider had its version of the illusion, and when it was born, it became real. In the following days, the news in my now distant city talked about our house, which was now a giant spider web. Useless attempts to send exterminators inside ended with some men not returning alive. Moreover, the pustule plague had spread everywhere, and many people claimed to see spiders. This phenomenon was spreading alarmingly worldwide, covered on every news channel. Then one day, all the spiders on the planet, of every species, came out in the open. Some thought they would attack us, as if it were a B-movie horror. Instead, they just stood there. Biologists around the world were baffled. These spiders were exposing themselves to environmental hazards, natural predators, human hunters for no apparent reason. We couldn't understand what drove them until we realized they were assaulting the trees. They climbed every tall plant and tree, colonizing the branches, catching helpless animals, beehives, nests that couldn't escape. Time took a terrible toll on the trees, turning them into enormous cloud-shaped spiderwebs. Dense forests like the Amazon rainforest, the Black Forest in Germany, or Aokigahara in Japan became mazes of webs, from which no one emerged alive. The situation remained static for several months. Burning the trees was futile. The spiders moved quickly. They had become like ants. And speaking of ants, even they didn't survive. Underground ant colonies filled with ever-deepening and complex webs. In the end, a windy season arrived, and the webs were blown away. It was like when cherry blossom trees shed their petals in spring, but in this case, the trees were sending their webs flying. For a while, the problem seemed resolved. Scientists claimed that all the spiders would end up in the sea and consequently die. But the sky grew darker and denser with clouds, and we realized these were not clouds. They were spider webs. Birds were the first victims, flying near the trees or up toward the clouds. They got entangled in the vast net in the sky and were captured. The spiders in the sky enlarged their gigantic web, which was descending upon us day by day, getting closer to the television broadcast with each passing moment. Sometimes, the news briefly showed frames of the clouds, and you could see massive spider legs for a few seconds. Inside, monstrous creatures we couldn't even imagine. The web was like a curtain that fell upon humanity on September 29th when the spiders began to descend, and humans became flies, the perfect prey for Earth's new masters. Some groups of limited humans managed to create shelters, where we all hid, far away from the webs and the enormous spiders, now as big as horses. They came searching for us, but unfortunately, we were never safe, not with these new spider species. Even in those shelters, where we thought we were finally safe, someone started feeling an itchy sensation, and some whispered at night that they could see more on the faces of their friends. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel for more creepypastas. Until the next one.